Hi, I'm Steve from Divine Wind Soap, and today I'd like to talk to you about a problem that we all face, and that is the issue of ash on our soap, and it kind of disfigures the soap and makes marketing a little more difficult. I'm relatively new to soaping, but I've read as much as I can on the issue of ash. The first thing I think we need to do is define exactly what we're looking at. In the book here, Essentially Soap, Dr. McDaniel defines ash as a sodium carbonate that might come to the surface of our soap when there's too much lye in the mix. And he also mentions that there are 4 crystals of soap that are formed, and the one called the beta might be what we're seeing inadvertently. But when it comes down to it, what we're really looking at is this ash or this discoloration on the top of our soap that kind of just makes it difficult to, it's not pretty. So I'd like to tell you a little bit about my process, my journey in finding a way to get rid of the ash. The first thing that was said is that, well, why don't you just scrape it off? So I did that for a long time. Got a knife, an old one here. A bigger one was a little easier for me to handle and maneuver. And the scraping was relatively straightforward, and especially if you had a smaller area of your soap. And you just kind of come in here a little bit and scrape, take off a little bit of that, get it down to the position you wanted, come in here and smooth it out, and that pretty well would take care of ash in a small area on a square bar of soap. So that would work all right, but if you had more ash in a more textured surface, it was more difficult. Then I was advised that why don't you just prevent the ash from starting in the first place, and they said take a saran wrap or a plastic covering and put over your soap as soon as you put it in the mold. So I did that. What I ended up getting with that was a lot of texturing of the saran wrap on my soap, and I didn't like that looks. Plus, it didn't consistently work. It might have reduced it a little bit, but it didn't do a whole lot towards that. So then we moved on to a better way to do the scraping. And so I made this, but you can buy these planes. And that was a relatively simple process to take your soap and scrape it. I find that if you go in at an angle here rather than a flat face, it scrapes just a little nicer. So a few little scrapes will come off like that, and lo and behold, do enough of those, have a nice smooth appearance, and the soap is not really too bad. Larger areas, like the face of this soap, where you can see the ash in there, was a little bit more tricky, but technique essentially the same. And I would switch the bar around to get back and forth, and you could see here that we're taking that ash off and creating a very smooth, pretty finish to the bar. After you do that, if you get into your edge trimming, which this is a wonderful edge trimmer and works so fast and easy, just scrape each side down like this, come in here, do these corners, these corners, these corners, and the back, and the back, and the back, and you have a nicely textured bar that is quite sellable. So that does work. I find, though, that depending upon the amount of scraping you have to do, you can lose up to 5% of your soap through the scraping process and the trimming process. Let me get this out of the way now. Okay. So everything I read about ash and ash production, there was always one bright spot at the end of the tunnel, and that is it would always disappear as soon as the soap was used once. And if that's the case, I'm thinking, well, when you use soap, you get the soap wet. So I figured we should probably try to spray some water on the soap and see if that takes care of the ash problem. That way we're kind of viewing the ash as maybe a dehydration problem with the soap. So I did that for a while. I'd take a bar of soap or an area that had the ash, I'd spray water on it, and it worked. And I was quite pleased with that until the next day I came back and then it was dried out again. And that was disappointing for me. So I was a little bit stymied. Everything that I read about soap and the ash and how to remove it, there wasn't anything definitive that seemed to work consistently all the time and work well. The prevention was not there, and it was a problem. One day, I don't know why, I was sitting around thinking about the problem and trying to treat the bars and whatever, and I sprayed it with water. And I'll show you here. And I'm just raising this off the surface of the table so it doesn't stick on the bottom. But I put my bar soap down, and I got my magic solution here, which is distilled water, and I sprayed it. And it kind of takes that ash look away right away, and it looks pretty decent. But like I say, that dries out. What I ended up doing then, and I don't know the reason for it, but once I let that soak in for about a minute or 2 minutes, I came back with this magic solution. I thought we could probably bottle this up and sell it, and if we were all capitalists we would do that, but between you and me, the magic solution was 91% alcohol, which many of you are aware of if you get it at your local stores. After I sprayed the water on, I then came back and just sprayed the alcohol. What I found is that for soaps that had a high textured surface where scraping would destroy it, as I said with this particular soap here, I want to keep that textured surface because I like the looks of it. But if I go to scrape that off, or if I have a lot of this, it tends to destroy the texturing in there. With this process, the only thing going on is water and then our distilled water, and just let it set a bit. And if you have a lot of things that need to be have the ash taken off of them, this helps quite a bit. Let me see if I have another bar here. I think I scraped all of that off the one bar, but you could kind of see a little bit of the look here that this is starting to look much nicer. And these bars here will also. The water and the alcohol will drain down the side of the bar. Sometimes if I have a lot to do, I'll spray the sides. Often I'll just set up, whichever face needs the attention and use a modest amount of water and a modest amount of the alcohol on there. By way of comparison, I'd like to show you some soaps that I did this procedure on a month ago. And here I have 4 bars of soap that I think you could see the look of that ash and that crummy look that we have to them. Let me just wipe a little bit of this alcohol off of here so I don't want to stick things to it. And we have our bars there. And then these are the same bars next door to them 2 months ago that I did my procedure with. And I think that you could see the difference, and these again are 2 months old, have sat there, so they've had adequate time to dry up and to reassume that ash look, but they don't. And I'll just put these up side by side so that you can see the look of those. Same difference here. We'll show you the look of those. So I think that is a pretty good answer to this, especially if you have soaps that are not flat surfaces, that have a little bit of terrain in them or a little bit of structure that you don't want to necessarily scrape off. These 2 bars here, you can start to see that ashy look is gone, and that the texture that I wanted, that surface look that I wanted on those bars, will come through and will be pretty much 100% on those. This one also is getting a lot less. Some of that lightness in there is due to white soap that I had put in there, so it's also doing that. So that's my contribution. I've gained a lot of information from the web, and I certainly appreciate the wealth of knowledge that's out there. And if this can help anyone in their endeavors to make their soap prettier and easy to utilize, I sure hope that it helps.